In this video, I will talk about transformative learning theory. But first, I want to ask, what is the purpose of learning? Generally speaking, it is said that learning is about gaining new knowledge. And this all too trivial definition is, we have to admit, largely correct. At the same time, there is a risk that we think of learning as only the imparting of knowledge, that we can easily summarize in learning objectives within a curriculum. But isn't there more to learning than that? Is there something beyond what we can summarize in a curriculum? Can learning even be transformative? I usually mention the education philosopher Gert Biesta in these contexts. He emphasizes that education is about three things: qualification, socialization, and subjectification. And the most obvious example of the process of qualification is learning a vocational skill. Qualification accordingly concerns how teaching contributes to the acquisition of specific abilities and knowledge, which in turn enables students to function effectively in society when performing different tasks and confronting various challenges. Socialization, in turn, concerns how teaching incorporates students into a specific social, cultural, and political order. This is done in particular by communicating different norms and values through education. Finally, subjectification is about how teaching contributes to the student becoming a subject. Unlike socialization, subjectification is not about the student becoming part of an established order. Instead, it is about the student breaking away from the norms and values that govern such orders. Subjectification is thus about how students, as Biesta writes, can be independent, or as some would say, autonomous subjects of action and responsibility. While the teacher needs to find a good balance between all of these three purposes, it is above all the issue of subjectification that Biesta emphasizes and develops in his philosophy of education. He argues that it is the very task and responsibility of education to keep in existence a space in which freedom can appear, a space in which unique singular individuals can come into the world. These insights have uh, These insights are what transformative learning theory is based on. Learning is not only about acquiring knowledge or skills, it's about self-discovery, to grow as a person. Transformative learning theory thus focuses on how people's perspectives and worldviews change when they gain new knowledge and experience. What is interesting for our purposes is that it is a theoretical tradition that has mainly looked at learning of adults and young adults. So, transformative learning theory is based on the work of Jack Mezirow mainly. He noticed that adult learners learned in a specific way. They had a greater need to evaluate new knowledge and experience in relation to what they already knew and had experienced. Thus, to understand what they learned, it must be related to the previous knowledge and experiences. Mezirow therefore reasoned that adult learners must be encouraged to critically reflect on what they are presented with, but also to critically reflect on their own knowledge so that it can be transformed in relation to the new. This, in turn, according to Mezirow's thinking, is how someone can change the way they view the world and life in general. Thus, the more knowledge and experience you gain, the greater the need and opportunity to change physiologically, where you change how, not physiologically, psychologically, where you change how you understand yourself, your convictions, where you change your worldview, and behaviorally, where you change your lifestyle. For Mezirow, it was particularly when so-called disorienting dilemmas arose that personal transformation especially occurred. These are times when students realize that what they have previously believed needs to be re-evaluated. Accordingly, a disorienting dilemma highlights that our specific points of view or beliefs have become dysfunctional, as Mezirow said. This can be uncomfortable for the students as certain knowledge and experiences can overturn crucial aspects of one's self-understanding and worldview. But it need not have this effect. the point is that the new knowledge or experience requires you to evaluate your previous knowledge and experiences, thus implying a potential for transformation. Mezirow suggested that transformation tends to occur in 10 phases, and these phases are listed on this slide. I won't go deeper into this list now. Feel free to pause this video if you want to review it more carefully. But as you can see, the transformation occurs from a disorienting dilemma, which leads you to critically evaluate what you previously believed until it eventually becomes integrated into your thinking and actions. If we quickly go back to Gert Biesta, such disorienting dilemmas are crucial for subjectification to take place in education. To develop his pedagogy of interrupting, pedagogy of interruption, as he calls it, Biesta believed that the teacher can and should enable opportunities where the student can appear as a subject by, as he said, interrupting the student. Thus, the teacher has an educational purpose in forcing the student to appear as a subject by actively confronting or enabling someone else to confront the student with the one or the thing that is other. By interrupting the student, they must therefore reflect on their life orientation and evaluate whether it is worth continuing along the path they are on. Simply put, when teachers let students be confronted with perspectives that are new to them, it creates a space to reflect on what effect this new information, big or small, has on their way of viewing and acting in the world. Similarly to what Biesta argues, transformative learning theory advances the perspective that it is the teacher's task to interrupt their students for transformative learning to happen. So if we imagine what this looks like in a learning situation, it is the teacher's task to create the conditions for a critical reflection on what has previously been known. This might involve giving students opportunities to learn new perspectives as skill, but it can also be about helping them to identify and question previous perspectives and skill so that transformation can take place. However, it is important here to point out that the teacher takes great responsibility when interrupting the student in this way. Since such an interruption can be disruptive, the teacher must be prepared to deal with the emotions that may arise, which are not always easy to manage. Sometimes a disorienting dilemma can even lead to anger, thus disrupting classroom cohesion. A teacher who wants to work with transformative learning must therefore create a safe learning environment where one respects each other's strivings towards transformation, even when it can be emotional, and also make visible differences of opinions among those present at a learning situation. But according to Mezirow, it was also in this way that a new, transformed person could emerge, a person closer to who he or she was meant to become. One can see an emancipatory feature in transformative learning theory. Much like a humanistic learning theory, a transformative learning theory aims to help students reach their potential as human beings. This includes being able to assimilate the knowledge and experiences that you receive and then critically reflect on them. This, in turn, is the path to becoming someone who can assess what he or she encounters critically and who is willing to change as they gain new knowledge and experience. A well-used quote by Mezirow is when he writes, "A defining condition of being human is that we have to understand the meaning of our experience. For some, any uncritically assimilated explanation by an authority figure will suffice. But in contemporary societies, we must learn to make our own interpretations rather than act on the purposes, beliefs, judgments, and feelings of others. Facilitating such understanding is the cardinal goal of adult education. Transformative learning develops autonomous thinking." As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, learning is not only about providing knowledge and skills to students. It can also be about transforming students to become more independent and more free. And according to transformative learning theory, this is what learning should be. So in this video lecture, I've talked about transformative learning theory. I hope you have gained some new insights and perspectives. Take care.